All right, here we go. Well, as promised earlier in my video about the Great Northern War, we are going to take a look at one of my favorite Sabaton songs. This is CAROLUS Rex. It's the song, the title song that comes from an entire album that is themed around Charles XII, who is one of the great kings of Europe. Young man when he died, still just in his 30s. Fascinating story. And we'll talk about some of that story as we get into this song. But I like the song. I like the feel. It's kind of a, I don't know what the word is, but basically the whole theme of the song is kind of the toughness and the strength and the kind of bigger than life character of CAROLUS Rex, which CAROLUS Rex just means Charles the King in Latin. And that's kind of what he's come to be known as. So we'll talk a little bit about the history of Charles XII as we get through this song. This is from the YouTube channel Night SGC Archive, which Night SGC did a lot of videos of Sabaton songs using footage from films about the subjects that they write their songs about. And so these are going to be clips from various movies that involve Charles XII. Including, I think, one about Peter the Great of Russia. I'll put a link in the description to the original video, as well as links to many of my other reactions to Sabaton songs that I've done over the last year. Let's go ahead and dive into this one. Such a good song.
All embrace me. It's my time to rule at last. 15 years have I been waiting to sit up on my throne.
All right, so he says, all embrace me. It's my time to rule at last. 15 years have I been waiting to sit upon my throne. So he comes to the throne. I think at the age of 14, the calendar is such a weird thing at that time, so it's sometimes hard to tell exact dates. So, for example, he died on November 30th, but also could have been December 18th. So it just depends on the calendar you're looking at. And like many times in history, when you have someone that young come to power, people try to take advantage. People within the kingdom will try to take advantage to see who's going to hold sway and influence over the new young king, but also people from without, other nations. This is a time in history when Sweden is an empire. They rule all of what today is Sweden and Finland, also parts of Russia, I believe Estonia, parts of other nations as well. And so this is kind of the height of Swedish power during CAROLUS Rex, Charles XII's reign. By the end of his reign and in the aftermath, they're going to lose all that. Sweden's going to cease to be an empire. It's going to lose a lot of its territory. He's kind of the high water mark for them in terms of power. It talks about the power being divine, and all rulers at this time in history, monarchs, believed in the idea of their power, their right to rule being divine, coming directly from God. In other words, nobody can question this because it comes from God. But a lot of rulers, they were given legitimacy by the church. And what they're saying here is, I didn't get my power from the church. I got it from God directly. So my power is divine. It doesn't come from man. It doesn't come from a human-led church. It comes directly from God. Don't question it.
They thought I was too young to rule the land. Yes, they failed to understand how to rule. My time has come. I was chosen by heaven.
there are certain people in history who they just seem to be really good at one thing in particular. Charles XII is one of those people. He was just the kind of person who was always the most comfortable, it seems, in war. He seemed more comfortable in combat and in fighting than he did anywhere else, and that's why most of his rule is marked by war. And some of that was out of his control. The fact that he comes to power at a young age means that he kind of attracts that. And as we're talking about in the Great Northern War series, because he comes to power as a teenager at a time when Sweden rules a lot of territory that other people want, like Russia, like the Danish, Norwegian monarchy, Poland, Lithuania, they all see this as a great opportunity to swoop in when they perceive Sweden as being weak, to get some things back that they really want. Russia wants a port on the sea. Poland, Lithuania wants the area that we now know as Estonia back. Denmark, Norway, they want some things back as well. And so they all kind of take advantage of this opportunity. And so Charles XII is thrust into war right away, but he doesn't just defend his borders. He takes the offensive. He marches on Moscow at one point and gets pretty darn close to winning. He wins battle after battle when the odds are stacked heavily against him. And so it only makes sense then that Charles XII ends up dying in battle. And we'll talk about that at the end. I'll actually show you a picture of Charles XII from an autopsy that was done on his body back about 100 years ago, because there's still a lot of questions about exactly how he died. Battle scenes are great. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Let's go back for a second. I don't know exactly what movie this is from, but this is really cool. I mean, just these scenes like this, we don't get enough of those, do we? Things like the movie Waterloo from 1970, which is phenomenal. They used all these Soviet troops and trained them for months in Napoleonic tactics. And just incredible scenes that you don't get to see very often. Just the whole song is all about, I'm tough, take it and like it, basically. Hear my orders, question me and die. No man alive or dead commands me, I answer to the Lord. But you have to understand, as a young kid coming to rule, you have to project that kind of confidence and authority so that people can be confident in you. So they don't question it, so they don't try to take advantage of you. He had to be that kind of guy.
What I say was said in heaven, and so it shall be done. I know I was destined to rule alone. All for myself I have claimed the throne, born to rule. My time is now. I was chosen by heaven. Say my name when you pray to the sky. See CAROLUS rise. With the Lord my protector.
These are great battle scenes. If somebody knows what movie that is from, let us know in the comment section below. I know there are clips from multiple movies here, and they're described in the description of the original video. I just don't know which ones that particular battle scene are from. So something else interesting about Charles XII, he never married. And there's a lot of speculation, and every time you have a prominent historical figure who never marries or never has children, there's the immediate speculation, well, maybe he was gay. And obviously these are during times when people weren't going to necessarily come right out and say that they were gay. I don't think that's the case here, because there's a lot of people who talked about how Charles XII talked about attraction to women. he was the kind of person who was so consumed with his first love, which was battle, that he really just never took the time for that. And they flirted with the idea of marriages to different princesses and things like that would create some alliances. It just never really happened for him. I think I remember reading at one point that he talked about how he was afraid that if he got himself into a sexual relationship, that would consume him and he would no longer have the attention he needed to give to battle. So I think he saw himself as married to war first and foremost. So who knows? But he never had children, certainly no legitimate children, because he never married. And so then I think the crown passes to another member of his family after that. But at that point, they were so weakened that it was decades before Sweden again really had a significant monarch.
Shall be mine, there's no stopping me. All over Europe, my rule shall be questioned by none.
All over Europe, my rule shall be questioned by none. Well, it didn't work out that way in the end.
All I say, give to me, that is my decree. My will be done.
So that's obviously a direct play on from the Bible, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, saying God's will be done, but Charles XII in this song is saying my will be done. Again, it's all about that confidence, and that confidence that he projects infects his men because they get that same kind of confidence. You have to have that kind of confidence to go into some of the battles they did, outnumbered 3 and 4 to 1 and winning these stunning victories at places like Narva, for example. Epic guitar solo. That's his grave. All right, so let's talk about what happens. First of all, names are a funny thing. CAROLUS, CAROLUS, is Charles in Latin. That's where we get North Carolina and South Carolina. They were named after King Charles of England. I think it's Karl, Karl in Swedish. It's obviously Charles in English. All the same name, just depending on the language that you're using. So he's killed in battle. And nobody, even though he was surrounded by his own troops, nobody actually saw the fatal shot occur, which kind of makes me wonder if there wasn't a bit of a cover-up going on. Because some speculation that they say that the enemy wasn't firing at the time, and that he may have been killed by one of his own men who wanted the siege that they were involved in to be over with. But we know that the bullet, the projectile, we don't know if it was a bullet, goes in one side of his head and comes out to the other side, and he's killed instantly. And I believe that, which is a really weird thing, kind of rare, the entrance wound's actually larger than the exit wound, which doesn't typically happen. And so people don't know for sure, was it a bullet? Was it a piece of grape shot, which seems to be the most common theory, is that it's a piece of like shrapnel from an artillery shell that passed through. Other people have even speculated that it was something else altogether. But nobody knows for sure. They just know that he was killed instantly and that it happened during the siege, and it was in the siege line. So take a look here. First of all, this is really cool. This is the uniform he was actually wearing when he was killed, and they have that and it's in such great shape. And I want to go to the Royal Armory in Stockholm, Sweden, just to see that uniform. That is a really cool looking uniform. I like it a lot. So that's really cool that they have that still. And you can see kind of a painting here of him wearing something very similar to that. So they dig him up multiple times. And I should say as well that one of the things that some people speculated about, that the reason he never had a sexual relationship and had children, is that he was a hermaphrodite, which means you had both parts. No, they checked that when they autopsied the body. He did not. But this is actually the head of Charles XII, as photographed about 100 years ago. And you can see, I believe this is the exit wound from the shot that killed him, that came out the right side. So there's that. But here you can see it says, some people theorize he was assassinated. He was in the trenches close to the perimeter of the fortress that they were besieging, Trondheim. And he was struck in the head by a projectile and killed. It struck the left side of his skull, exited from the right. He died instantly. Despite multiple investigations on the battlefield, his skull and his clothes were investigated. It is not known where and when he was hit, or whether the shot came from the ranks of the enemy or from his own men. A likely explanation is that he was killed by Dano-Norwegians as he was within reach of their guns. Two possibilities usually cited: he was killed by a musket shot, or he was killed by grape shot from the nearby fortress. Some people speculate then that he was actually assassinated. So nobody knows for sure, but that's that. Check out some of the links to some of the many other reactions I've done to Sabaton stuff. Great stuff, great songs, love everything they do. And we'll come back again with part 2 of our look at the Great Northern War tomorrow. Thanks for watching.